And
Mhm.
looking at WaterCan in particular, we know that it is a network of citizen science activists. And for a long time, we've heard about water, and to the extent of even wars being fought over water. And water is not only a problem in South Africa, it is a global problem. And, we've heard just earlier on, I was talking to somebody out in Durban. They were talking about water shedding. They were talking about poor
Mm,
infrastructure. And it has
mm.
become a major talking point and a major point of focus, not only, as I said, in South Africa, but right across the entire world.
Indeed, it has, and you're right. I mean, I think also, when the first kind of discussions came up about water wars, it was looking at between countries, having wars between countries. What we're going to find actually is that you're going to have water conflicts within countries. Um, so, for example, if we take Nelson Mandela Bay, right, it's very easy for towns around there to say that because of the mismanagement in Nelson Mandela Bay, they are now not getting water, and they could start blocking their rivers. I'm not saying that that should happen, but it is the kind of conflict that could arise. We also, we had. I think there needs to be more of an alarm in terms of our water in general. Um, there's some kind of, you know, I would say modeling that says that by 2030 we're going to be running out of water as a country as a whole. So it really is something that we need to take more seriously, and we need to find mechanisms to actually save water in a much more uh, like it must become a habitual thing rather than only doing it when we're facing a day zero.
Exactly, and I think this is a point that we are making, where we found that a few years ago in the Western Cape, this became a major area of focus as well. We talked about Day Zero in the Western Cape. Now we're talking about Nelson Mandela Bay. But the key issue here is how committed are we? How serious are we, Dr. Adam, when we look at water? Are we just taking things for granted? That we open up our taps, we've got water to drink, we've
Yeah.
got water to shower, to cook, and those type of things. So we basically take things for granted. But the key issue here is advocacy, and making sure that there is a sustained campaign to ensure that at all times we've got clean, we've got safe, and we've got sustainable water.
I absolutely agree with you, and I think that different, of, of action, and get
Uh,
government.
Dr. Adam, if you could possibly just move around, we are losing you slightly. You are breaking up. I'm not too sure
Okay,
whether it's a signal issue on
okay.
your side.
Can you hear me now? I hope. I
Yes,
hope it's
much better,
okay.
much better, much better. Thanks.
Okay. I mean, I think I was saying that we have to look at action from different levels, right? And then the one would be the obvious one is to start with government. And if you just look at the report yesterday, where Department of Water and Sanitation is using millions and millions on flights and accommodation and flowers, and when people don't have pipes, when we know that our infrastructure needs to be fixed. So, I think that the new minister and the new kind of management that he has in place is much better than we've had in years. So there's a little bit of hope that hopefully that this kind of leadership would actually get something done. But the problem is a lot of it is already dire. So you're right. I think ordinary people, we need to realize that we are wasting water. That's the reason of I open tap and use what I want. Um, must end. I know people who have boreholes and say, well, this is my borehole, so I can use it for whatever I want. But no, you are still finishing the water, you know. Um, and we're going to have more challenges with climate change. Let's be honest. I think that our droughts are going to be more frequent. They're going to be harsher. And on top of all of that, our infrastructure is in a really, really bad state. It should be scary for anyone. So I think that you're right. We need to have more activism, and that's what we're doing. And that's, with WaterCan, we need to build people on the ground who can monitor water resources.
Yes, just for a few minutes, if you could take us through WaterCan, looking at some of these specific initiatives that you've embarked upon, Dr. Adam.
Okay, so WaterCan is really stands for the Water Community Action Network, right? We obviously playing on the word a water can, which is a yeah. But we also an initiative of an organization called OUTA, which is the Organization Undoing Tax Abuse. Now, often people would say to me, why is OUTA, who's dealing with tax abuse, involved in water? For a few reasons, really. One is our water supply. If you look at the local government level, that's where it needs to happen. And there's a lot of corruption and mismanagement happening there, and why many of our cities and towns are in the state that they're in right now. But also, you know, you can't look at water without also looking at the climate issues. And so I do water and environment. And so there's a combined impact. But the bottom line for the formation of WaterCan was that water is life. We cannot live without it. And we have to protect it. It's in a bad state. And that's how WaterCan was, was developed. And the idea behind WaterCan in terms of our project is we trying to get, often we've just run a survey where we've asked people, what do they trust the quality of the water that they're drinking? And just to get a sense, and what we've realized is that people don't have enough information, but that information should be made public. And that's what we're doing. So we kind of on the one hand doing advocacy and saying to government, this kind of information should be public. If I can buy a bottle of water in the shop and it tells me what I have in that water, surely you should be telling me the quality of the drinking water I have in my tap so that I know. Because a lot of people don't drink their tap water because they don't trust government and they don't trust services, but some of that water is really good. So, you're wasting your money buying bottled water when your tap water is good. Those towns, by the way, are very few. The other big thing we're doing is we're trying to build a network of citizen science activists on the ground. So we worked with a laboratory in the Free State, and we've developed a water testing kit. And well, we didn't, but the scientists in that lab developed this testing kit. We kind of worked on different models and different testing materials, etc. And we finally came down to this particular kit that we have. And we test for a few things on drinking water, right? We test for phosphates, nitrates, pH, hardness, and all of that relates to basic quality of water if you want to test your drinking water. And we're not only doing it for taps, but also rivers and streams and dams as well you can test. We also have in the kit an E. coli test, which then tests levels of E. coli in the water. So it gives us about and heavy metals, sorry, because in Gauteng, if you think about some of the borehole water, you need to test it for acid mine drainage and for heavy metals. So it also has a test for that. So this is very simple. And we're working on developing a training, online training. We also will have, a day of testing on the 18th of September. We want people around the country to test. And then all of that data will be open source. We're developing a map where that information will be uploaded to, so that anyone can go into that map and look at the status of our water in the country. And that's our big plan. We've just started, and it's very exciting. There's a lot of excitement on the ground. But I think it makes sense for us to be able to then use this data to hold our municipalities accountable. So it's not just about doing the science. It's about taking that science, which is simple and it's simplified for everybody to use, to then be able to hold municipalities accountable. I mean, if you find, like for example, Makanda, right? If they found E. coli in their tap water, that is a serious, serious concern, and so that's the kind of thing we want to do.
Well, very, very interesting. And, I'm actually quite glad, Dr. Ferrial Adam, that we are having this discussion because we know that there was a time where we took great pride in the quality of the water that we had in this country. In fact, we actually boasted, saying that, we've had the best water in the world, actually. And this was true. This was exactly the case. But things certainly have gone pear shaped, they've gone horribly wrong. And like you're talking about accountability, about holding those who are in charge accountable, but more importantly, in terms of taking corrective actions. And my engineer has just informed me that you are in the middle of load shedding. Early on, I spoke to somebody out of Durban. They're talking about water shedding, and all of this is going to compound the problem. And if we don't address it, the situation is actually just going to get worse.
Absolutely. And we can't allow it to do that. We're at a tipping point. We can't lose hope. I know it's very easy. You switch the news on and it's very negative, and it's kind of, I've heard people saying, things are just gone, to hell, whatever. Or they just throw their hands up and what can you do? The problem is so immense. No, there's always something that we can do. And I think losing hope is that, it's not there. It's not what we do. We need to still, we at that point where we can turn things around, and if everyone gets involved. And I think that it links to everything. So, for example, the whole idea of democracy and having a say and voting, it mustn't stop at the voting polls. It must continue. And I think it's that kind of involvement that will hold our governments accountable and get rid of the nonsense, get rid of the corruption. But we have to, as citizens, all of us, we need to be involved more, whether it is getting the tests done, whether it is sending a letter to your municipality, whether it is having a protest outside a hospital. It's all of those kind of things we need to do on a regular basis.
Yes, and all of this in the effort ultimately to make sure that our water resources are protected.
Absolutely. And inshallah, we can get there and do that. I think that, besides the fact that there's infrastructure problems, there's also pollution from industry that's getting away, right? Because we don't have because we don't have a good enforcement of our policies and our laws. And so it's ordinary people who are seeing this, people walking and seeing a company like there's some funny colored water being spewed out into a river or stream or canal. Like those things need to be highlighted. Those things need to be told. We need to know about those things. And everyone can become the eyes and ears to check this very, very precious resource that we have, that we are running out of, in both in quantity and in quality.
Well, Dr. Ferrial Adam, I must say it's been an absolute pleasure engaging and talking with you this morning on this very, very important topic. And hopefully, we will continue talking about this. We will highlight the issues. We will continue looking at the areas where we can improve on. And from time to time, we need to visit this topic until we get to a stage where we know that with confidence we can say that we've achieved what we need to achieve as far as water is concerned and protecting our resources. But for now, we thank you. We say shukran to you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you again for having me on your show.
Dr. Ferrial Adam, WaterCan SA, with us this morning. We're going to go for a break. We come back. We are going to be joined by Professor Sipho Sipe.